And this is a total statement of a Roman sycophant. This is a Roman sycophant writing this book. But as I told you also, we have to be grateful for it. We have a huge encyclopedic presentation of this period, the likes of which we hardly have for any other time. But you must know what kind of person it is. And that's gone into the New Testament. When the Jews are before this saintly Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, who takes a towel and wipes his hands of the death of this righteous man, you know, and the Jews say, let his death be upon ourselves and upon our children in perpetuity. Come on now. That's not historical. That's the same thing as this. Mea culpa, we have only ourselves to blame. That's what it's the same spirit as this. So, again, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but I really think that, you know, 2,000 years of this are enough. And somehow people, not us, maybe in this little class, but more and more people begin to realize that, you know, that isn't fair. It's time to, you know, put an end to it and not let this way of presenting history go on forever, because all that will happen is more and more people will be killed, hurt, destroyed, and more unpleasant hatred will be constantly produced by it. It isn't fair. That's all I can say. It is not a fair presentation. Any more than Josephus is here is a fair presentation. So let's get to the end of this and get to the history. Starting with Antiochus Epiphanes, who stormed Jerusalem after holding it for 3.5 years. There's the 3.5 years of Daniel. Was driven out of the country by the Hasmoneans. I shall explain how their descendants, by their struggles for the throne, forced Pompey and the Romans to intervene. Look at that one. The Jews forced Pompey to intervene. What's Pompey doing in the Middle East anyway? How did they force him to intervene? Again, more mea culpa. Let it be on our own heads. You know, the Roman intervention wasn't because the Romans were absolute conquerors, booty-thirsty, riches-hungry, you know, thugs. It's because the Jews brought it on themselves. Okay. So again, he considers this to be even-handed. You can imagine how bad the others were if this is supposed to be even-handed. How the people, Antipater's son Herod, I told you about this, brought in Sosius, he's the Roman commander at 37 BC, put an end to the Hasmonean dynasty, how the people revolted after Herod's death when Augustus was a Roman emperor, and so on and so forth, and the remarkable successes of the Jewish armies, etc., 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 etc. Finally, he says in the last paragraph, I have to hurry, then I shall contrast the brutality of the party chief towards their countrymen with the clemency of the Romans towards aliens. Oh, yes, nice Josephus. It's the party chiefs who are the cause of all of the troubles. It means the party chiefs, the people in Palestine arguing with each other and inflicting brutality on each other, not the Roman armies. They are the proponents of clemency towards aliens. This is just such rubbish. You know, it's actually offensive. But you know, it just shows what we're dealing with this person's mentality, so that you can. I'm sure most people don't present Josephus this way. I apologize if I hurt your feelings on this, but I do it in an extreme way just to balance this, so you can see this. There was something else I want to say here, but he talks about the signs and wonders. Oh yes, about the brutality supposedly of the party chiefs. Josephus has a particular axe to grind here. His good friend, who he talks about in the Vita, also called Jesus, Ben Gamala, and some of you know the Talmud, a very well-known persona in the Talmud, Joshua ben Gamala, a high priest around the 60s AD, is a close friend of Josephus. And when the revolutionaries butchered all the high priests, and the revolutionaries did butcher the high priests, after the death of James, and I say that the reason they did that was because of the destruction of James by the high priests. I think James was part of the Revolutionary Party, is what I'm trying to get at. That takes a lot of discussion and conversation to explain how that could be. But anyway, when he starts mentioning zealots in the 66, when the outbreak of the war, the first thing they do is they bring in these foreign sympathizers called the Idumeans who help them, and they go through the city and they kill all the high priests. And among them is, not all of them, but whoever they can lay their hands on. And among them is Josephus' friend Jesus ben Gamaliel, but they also killed the person who killed James. And these two are the main two that he mentions, Ananus ben Ananus. And with this Jesus ben Gamaliel, they killed them and threw their bodies outside of the walls without burial. Naked bodies as food for jackals. Now, something caused them to be angry like that. They weren't just angry over nothing. You see, that's what I'm trying to say. You see, the high priests in the Herodian period, and the Herodian family and all these people like Josephus who were not representatives of the people. The people were more in the mindset of these other people that I'm talking about here. Very complicated situation. But the point is that Josephus resents very much the murder of this friend of his. Now first in the Vita, he didn't like Ananus ben Ananus. Ben means son of. Now the first Ananus was actually mentioned in the Gospels as at the trial of Jesus in the Gospel of Luke. So the father of this Ananus is at the house of the high priest where Jesus was supposed to have been tried in the gospel presentation of the death of Jesus. So his son, Josephus says at one point, is responsible for the death of James. He called a Sanhedrin together while the Romans were not in the country, in the antiquities this is, and had James accused of blasphemy and had him stoned. So I think that you get a series of things leading up to these events that cause these backlashes of violence and so on and so forth. I think you have to group people in this period by similar enemies. The early Christians have the same enemies as the revolutionaries, as the zealots. Ananus ben Ananus, the Ananus priestly family and so on. To my mind, those are the wicked priests at Qumran, not the Maccabean family. There's no reason to think that the Maccabean family would be the wicked priests at Qumran. So Pharisees, these collaborating high priests, and